How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. This is your average gamer. Obviously, I'm not new to posting Siege, but I'm a relatively small channel. But now that I'm on PC, I decided I could, do some testing server stuff, talk about the new op, and kind of how I feel using the new operator. I'm going to talk about some of the changes, so I apologize. The gameplay in the background is my second time ever playing on PC. And I have PC games, but it's like Doom, Age of Empires, Baldur's Gate, so it's not exactly shooter like with the leaning and all that kind of stuff, so I do apologize. I'm used to playing on controller. So some of the stuff you'll see here I'm sure will be cringe to you guys, and I'm not 100% used to it yet. But let's go ahead and get into the testing ground changes, because I have a total of 9 hours of footage plus whatever in between stuff. There were a couple games I didn't record, so I have probably about 10 hours played so far. So I want to real quick just talk about my feelings on some of it. I made sure to play all of the operators that they mentioned have been changed, because I wanted to get those prioritized. So for starters, I have a list here. So we'll start with Ashe. They increased her recoil, and they also took away one of her breaching rounds, so she only has 2 rounds, but they can now be used on electrified surfaces. They're completely immune to electric everything. And luckily, while I was playing, I did run into a couple teams where we were able to communicate, although my mic is, I guess, too loud, and I'm not sure how to get it lower. If anyone knows, please let me know down below, because apparently that is my problem. I keep lowering it, but for some reason it's almost like the bass and the gain is too loud, but for some reason it works in every other game, but for some reason Siege is too loud. I'm not sure what the problem is. So getting to play with my team, and I got to talk to the other team. We were just using the text chat. We got to test something that was Ashe's charge can be fired at like a reinforced wall that's electrified. I don't know when this is going to be useful, but technically it can be done, where let's say Kaid is on the wall, there's a Jaeger on the wall, then there's for whatever reason a mute right next, like using the wall as defense, that's watching a doorway. If I shoot my Ashe charge in the middle, it does blow up all of them. I don't know when you're going to be using an Ashe charge like that, but you can. It also works on electrified shields, but I know you can just shoot to the side of those and it has the same outcome, or just throw a grenade or something like that, so I'm not really sure where the actual value lies. As for her recoil change, it's really not that bad. I know that it looks bad if you just go in and try it out, but as far as keyboard and mouse goes, it's not bad. I'd say at the most, long distances is going to be really your only trouble. But even then, I mean, it's Ashe. You have a 3-speed op that you can get really close with, and the gun still shoots fast and does good damage, so maybe you just don't take long-range engagements, or you tap fire long-range. But I mean, there's a host of different things you can try doing. Now moving on, Bearing 9 got a recoil change. It is much more consistent. It just goes up. And once you get used to it, I found myself really enjoying it. You just have to play around with it a little bit, and I did have to like force myself to just run around with the Bearing 9 and try it out. But it is very good in like the regular close quarter engagement, like SMG 11 range. It's very good. I'd say it's similar to the SMG 11, with the fact that it's not as fast of a fire rate. The SMG 12 also got a recoil reduction. So before it was pretty bad. Now it's not as bad, especially not on PC. I really want to test this on console, but plugging in my controller, it wasn't syncing for some reason, so I didn't get to try it on a controller. It might be better, or it might not. I'm not 100% sure yet, but as far as the SMG-12 goes, I was always one of the people that swore to God I would eventually master it, and I'd be good with it, and I use it on console even though everyone says it's completely useless. I still have tried using it, and I know for the most part when the recoil will kick to the left and then it'll pull to the right, so I can use it relatively. And I thought it it's much easier to use, but again, that's a PC thing. Vigil got an increase to his recoil, though I have to be honest, I don't really notice it. If it is a recoil, it is extreme recoil increase. It's extremely slight. You won't notice it all that much. You can still spawn peek and all that. It's not really noticeable. Ella's recoil was changed around. It just is mainly left and right. So with the muzzle differences and the muzzle changes that they made, now if you just slap a compensator on there, as long as you can adjust for vertical, the left and right is basically gone, and her recoil is much easier to control. I played her quite a bit. Rook, they gave him a minor change where he can put on his plate immediately when he drops them. It's good. At least he gets his plates. So I will say that it's a change, but I think it's a change that makes sense. There's no reason that Rook should not get his plates because there's a toxic player on your team, which happens quite often. At least on console, it happened a lot. I didn't have any toxic players in the test server today, which was actually a great relief. By the way, electricity no longer destroys team gadgets, so if Kaid throws his claw, you can have a Jaeger device on there. I should have said that earlier when I talked about Ash's changes, but those do coincide. You can put a Jaeger on an electrified surface or a mute jammer right on top of it. Anything like that, honestly. It's interesting. You can put a Maestro on an electrified wall. Anything similar to that, you can kind of just go wild with ideas. Malusi, finally, you can shoot her devices, and you can shoot them pretty early on when it opens up. It's pretty easy to notice when it opens up. And she just have to think harder of where to put them to where like it'll be just behind something just enough to where they're going to have to like rotate around the corner so you can shoot them when they turn, but not be too simple that they can just shoot it at any point. So you have to think it through a little bit more. Not a ton, but a little bit more. So next up we have the Gaming After Death before I get into like Zero and Bulletproof and stuff like that. The Gaming After Death was okay for a little bit, but as the day progressed and I talked to more coordinated teams or played against more coordinated teams, I really started to dislike it more and more. You see Maestro moving around a lot more than you used to. There's a lot of Maestros that just don't care. They're willing to use the 81 round machine gun to spawn peek. I mean, they'll just do whatever. Maestro moving around is definitely a weird one. Same with Echo. Echo's kind of just roaming around doing his own thing. So that is one change that I don't think that's the big part here. But being on defense and having drones flying left, right, and center, you can't see the antennas. Their idea was that antennas would tell you if it's a dead player or not. I think it should just be a different color. If they're really going to try to do this, I think it needs to be a different color. That way you can tell which one is like a Mozzie drone, which one is an enemy drone that's being controlled by the person alive, or which one is a drone being controlled by a dead person. Because having Mozzie driving a drone next to you, assuming he doesn't do a call out or anything, you have no idea, and then having enemy drones and then an actual enemy droning himself, you just can't tell which one is which, and there's so much going on. If it's a 1v2 or a 1v1, there's just so much going on, it's hard to tell what's happening. And there were multiple instances where it did end up being like a 1v1, and there were drones coming through every single door, drone holes, and I wanted to shoot all of them, and I got like 2 of them, but then I heard someone moving, and then the drones kept spotting me, and I was trying to just find a spot where I could take the angle, but inevitably it's so difficult on defense to deal with that. It almost feels like you need a Mozzie or a Maestro, someone that can counter it. You basically need it. Which just isn't a wonderful feeling. Maestros being able to punch them now is different as well, because you can kind of just punch it and go and walk away, and he's gonna have to open it, or you can just pretend to walk away and turn around and shoot it immediately, depending on how good his hearing is. Mozzie and Maestro feel like a must-pick for the fact that if it becomes a 1v1 defender versus attacker, you need someone that can shoot some of those drones, or at least stop the drones, mute Mozzie, Maestro, just somebody that can help you with all the drones that are going to be coming in. Because the way this works is someone can run in like Ash, right? They can throw a drone just on top of the roof, fuck it, run in, no drone, no anything, just go for frags. And if they die, they have 2 drones that then they can drive around immediately after that part of the round, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because they ran in, they should be punished for just running in like a maniac. Or Amaru just swinging through a window, you shoot him immediately. Well, now you know that they have 2 drones that are going to be droning you out the entire time. And if they are smart, and they're a 5-stack, and they coordinate their drones. I actually had one game where my team was communicating really well, and I went in as Nomad. I had 2 drones watching the door behind me, and then 2 drones droning ahead of me, telling me, like, it was to the point where he said, on ping, crouch level. I turned pre-fire that guy, and then he said, guy coming through the door on the left, he's currently standing, and I pre-fired the door and got him as well. It's just a little too much. With attackers having better weapons, it doesn't make sense to have so many drones that the defenders have to deal with. And what I noticed was, in the test server, people droned normally, but then later on in the day, people would have 1 drone driving around, they'd find the base, everyone else's drone would just sit outside. They wouldn't even use it, because they knew how strong drones are now. Because if you die, you still get them, and you still get all that utility and the strength of the drone. I'm not a fan. I also am not a fan of the fact that Maestro. I had a call out. Amaru is 5 health. She ran past my Maestro, and I killed her. I won the round because I killed her with a Maestro cam when I was dead, and my Thunderbird was 2 floors under me, or under the base. Not even paying attention, just roaming while they were about to plant. Like, we shouldn't have won it, but we did. It doesn't feel right. Echo being able to, sonic boom people right off the plant, I just think they need to do a little bit more thinking about it, because the problem is, if only defenders have the ability, then it's too difficult for attackers. Even being able to disable the Maestro cam with a single punch, you still have to look for the echoes, and if you're the last man standing, you need to plant. There's just too much going on. There's too much stuff that you have to think about. But then you have the same issue. Here's my problem with it. Mozzie's the only character where you have moving drones, right? Echoes, technically, yeah, you can say can move, but it can't like go invisible or anything like that. You can't like jump it into all these strange places that you can get drones into. There's a lot of really cool drone spots. But having 4 drones all at once because the enemy team died, and then you're being essentially punished for it, doesn't feel right to me anyway. But that's just one of the things we'll have to see. Let me know what your guys' opinion is down below. For me anyway, it just seems a bit odd. But again, this is just my first like 10 hours with the changes. It could end up being good, but for right now, I'm definitely not a fan. So next up is Zero. His change I think is completely and utterly pointless, if we're going to be honest. When you shoot his gadget, you have the laser beams that you can fire. Well, now he gets just infinite lasers. It'll come back on a timer, basically. But that doesn't change the fact that they're loud when they go down. They're extremely loud when they go down. Anyone can hear it, and they'll just shoot it, especially with how big they are and how bright the light is that it uses. I don't know anyone that actually lets him get away with it. As a flank watch, it's okay, but then you're not using the laser. Like, the laser can break Miras, it can do all this cool stuff, but you can never actually get it into the base unless you drone out and you know that there's no one in there, and then you send it in. His change, it seems like if they would have kept it where he only gets the one shot, but they make it a quieter gadget. The laser can still be loud, that doesn't matter because you only get one shot. But if it's quieter going into the wall and you get that one shot, I feel like that would make more sense. And I think it would be much better. Because the light alone, the bright yellow light, is pretty easy to see. But the splinter cell sound of when it goes onto a wall just... it gets its shot every time. Someone can be looking the opposite way. You know, you throw in a flash or something, shoot the cam over their head, and they'll still shoot it because they can hear it. I don't think it's gonna actually change anything if we're being honest here. Bulletproof cams now have the same shattered glass effect when you punch them. I don't think it's that crazy, but the Bulletproof can now move back and forth, which I thought was really cool. It can fire an EMP, which is really good. If you have a teammate that's bandit tricking or something like that, you can give them a little bit more time. Now this also means that Kaid can do it as well. Similar to a bandit trick where you can EMP the wall when you hear the thermite going down, and then, so long as you know where it is, it does have a smaller blast radius, so you have to be pretty careful. But you can EMP it and then have Kaid throw another claw. Although I was using it more in conjunction with a bandit trick if the guy was just a bit slow. Additionally, and it also is good, like it can stun jackals, headset, it can stun drones, it can, you know, it stuns anything electrical, stuff like that, which is good. But I feel like they're trying to make you use the Bulletproof more, like they want you to use it against drones. That way, you know, drones aren't as powerful and you get to destroy some of the drones, but it just... there's the characters that have the Bulletproof, I don't want to use the Bulletproof on. It's I don't know. There are some characters that use the Bulletproof and are fine, but for right now, it's an okay change. I just don't see it changing a ton. Broken glass. Speaking of that, Mira's broken glass, it definitely makes her very... let's see. Most sites that I can think of that were 100% pick this site because we can use Mira are no longer like that. They're definitely harder to use than before because if it gets punched from the other side, it's blacked out. And if your teammate isn't communicating well, or like one of them has to rotate off of the Mira because of a grenade or something like that, and you run to the other Mira to look, and then all of a sudden you come back and it's shattered, now it's completely useless. And at that point you're wondering why the fuck you even picked Mira. Why didn't you just throw a Valk cam or something in the fucking hallway or something? So I think the only change that I could even think of to make, I know Mira is a top pick, everyone really likes her, and she's really strong, but what I think would be an interesting idea is if it took more than just a single punch. Like Maestro, a single punch, I could see shattering that much glass. That makes sense to me. But Mira having a bulletproof glass that can just get punched and shatter like that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, logically, I get where it makes sense for the game, but realistically, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, the one caveat I would say is if we really want the punch to work, I think it should block off, like we could say, it takes 3 punches to get the whole thing. If you hit the left side, it completely blocks out, like, 1/3, the whole left side. And then if you hit the middle, it'll block out the middle, and then the right blocks out the right. I think that would make a little bit more sense because it would still block her vision, but it wouldn't just completely blind her with a single punch, because I think that's just going to make the character almost useless. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to be playing. I think they'll still play her, and in certain sites she'll still be very strong, but in a lot of other sites where she felt like a good pick but not the greatest pick, she's now the useless pick. Just don't pick her. I think that definitely fucks with her. Let's see what else we got here. Dokubi's Logic Bomb can now affect defenders even when they're dead. I think that's a good idea. The only thing I would say is I wish there was a defender like that could just make all of the 4 drones that are coming at you in a 1v1 do the same. Because in a lot of sites, people are going to take site control, and that's the kind of main thing of attack, is to take primary site control. And if you have 4 drones watching site, once they take control of it and they get the plant down, you're basically just in a lose scenario. Like there's nothing you're gonna do. There's too many drones, even with mute, Mozzie, all that kind of stuff. You're basically fucked. But Dokubi's logic bomb affecting them is interesting. I never got hit by a Dokubi, so I never got to experience what it's like, or if they can turn it off or anything like that, so I'm not 100% sure how it works, but I do think it's a good idea. The death cams, the new death cam and stuff like that, where it's supposed to be faster and all that, I don't like the play button that it does right in the middle of the screen. I'm not a fan of that. One thing I do enjoy is that it doesn't just like freeze frame, you know, and show you where you got shot from, that kind of thing. So it does allow me just to skip through the entire process and do an immediate call out. For instance, if I get shot and they run back down the stairs, like if I get shot midway on the stairs and then they run back down the stairs, I can tell my teammate running back down the stairs, or if they run up the stairs, I can say they're coming up the stairs, something like that. That's a good idea. I do like that. Let's see. The bodies disappearing after being killed makes a lot of sense. I know dead bodies were inconsistent for some players, so that change definitely makes sense to me. Personally, I don't love it because it's not realistic, but if there is a discrepancy as to where dead bodies are, I completely understand the need for it. It's not something I love, but it's something I understand needs to happen. To, like they said, to make it still competitive. Next up, we have the bullet holes being changed. That's a no-brainer. You shouldn't be able to aim through a 9mm. I completely agree with that in terms of the game and the way it plays. That makes a ton of sense. The health display being, you know, where it'll tell you how much health you have when you're overhealed, if you have Rook armor, how much health you have when you're a 2 or a 3 speed, you get what I mean, 2 or 3 armor. That makes a lot of sense to me as well. I do enjoy that, and I think that should make it into the game, personally. The smoke changes are okay. He's got more consistent damage. It's not supposed to clip through walls anymore, which I tried doing. I never really had any moments of real great testing with it. Like, I never got to really experience it, but let me know if you guys got to experience it down below. Next up, we have muzzle attachments. They do feel completely different. So for those of you who don't know, Flash Hider is supposed to help for vertical recoil. Compensator helps for left and right recoil, and these are very noticeable. I don't know if they're going to get nerfed or something like that, but right now you can definitely feel the differences for both of them. So I do think that's a good change. I'm not sure if any of the other muzzles are going to end up getting changed later on, but for right now, those are the 2 that are in the patch notes. Next up, we have Finka. So when you get Finka boosted, now it'll actually heal you for that amount if you are lower on health. That's a good change. I think she's needed that for a while, just because she is kind of a useless pick. So yeah, that's probably a good idea, and that way you can say, I'm healing you or something like that, or give him something. Like, Finka needs something. She's completely useless right now. And I did see some people using it, so at least it's being tested. I tried it out a little bit, but as far as like healing wise, it doesn't help all the time. It does help if you have a teammate that goes down and you can finish off the enemy. You know, you can get them up and then Finka boost them. That way they have a good amount of health moving forward. Knock is next on the list. She lost the muffled step, like the silent step that she had, similar to a Cav. I don't know why they did that when they've been working so hard on making her a stealth operator, especially now that she's supposed to be able to move through everything, but they did change it where she cannot go through laser devices similar to like Capcan and stuff like that. So I'm not sure why they're doing that. It feels like they wanted to give her a buff, but now her buff isn't a real buff anymore. I don't follow the idea behind that, but I'm also not seeing any really good knocks. Like, I'm seeing knocks, but it's not like they're blowing up a team or anything. It's not like, you know, an Ashe push or anything. And they're not just walking up behind us and shooting everybody, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Next up on the list, we got Favela, the rework to Favela, the casual map that no one wanted to be reworked. I have a couple friends that hate Favela with a flaming passion when they play quick play, so for the sake of them, I find this to be a good change. It definitely feels better, and it's nice to have a night map again, but other than that, not a ton to say about it. So lastly, we'll get on to Thunderbird and how she is as an operator and how she's doing so far. I tried to allow as many other people to play her as possible, and I wanted to test her out as much as I could as well. That way I get a reasonably good understanding of how she is going to be played, and I wanted other people to try her out to see if they end up coming up with a better idea than I had. So real quick, I do love the Spear 308. I love the Bearing 9. It works well. She has impact C4s. Again, very good. She's a 3-speed, which sometimes can be good, sometimes is not as great. Her healing stations currently can be picked up and then put back down, and it'll heal you immediately once its radius is done, similar to a Kaid Claw. That needs to be looked at because you can heal your teammates fast. So, for instance, if I have a teammate that goes down and I need to top them off, I can just pick it up, drop it, pick it up, drop it, pick it up, drop it, and they're back to full health. So that does need to be looked at, especially if it's a team setting. Like, if someone's spawn peeking, they get shot, they are spawn peeking from base or whatever, I can fully heal them while my teammates cover me. That happened once or twice, so that needs to be looked at. Leaving them behind so that way you can roam is never the best idea, just because they go off anytime someone gets near. So a teammate going through a well-trafficked area, even if you put it a little off to the side, when they're aiming, they might accidentally walk into it. Now that's on a 40-second timer, and it is what it is. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing, I guess. But it does feel kind of useless when you leave them on site sometimes, or on like if you put them off to the side of someone using a shield and Jaeger devices and stuff like that on a point where they can just lean off to the side a little bit and get some health. That works well. Unfortunately, I didn't have any super coordinated teams or really sites I could try that on. Let's see what else. I did get to use it as bait once. I was running underneath while roaming, and I saw that it gave health. We had no teammates, and I chucked a C4 up there, and I blew it up because I didn't want them to continue getting health, but I actually got a kill from it, so maybe it can be used as bait at some point. I'm not really sure. Otherwise, it's not super great for leaving on site. 45-second cooldown is a bit harsh to deal with. And if the enemies take sight, they just have your healing stations, and there's no real way for you to stop it now, you know? That's the one thing I'm concerned about, is if the enemies take sight, you are kind of just fucked if your healing stations are there and they don't shoot them out. If they didn't shoot attackers, I feel like she'd be much stronger, but they do, so they're not as strong. But then she might be a little too crazy because it's basically a 3-speed Doc with an assault rifle, so I can see the need for thinking about that. The only change I could think of making that would make this just a little more consistent, I don't know if it would play well, though. My idea was to have it be where you have to go up and then click to pick up the health. And the only reason I thought about doing that is the fact that there's just a lot of instances where I don't want the health. You know, I don't want the health. I'm just passing through the base because I need to, and my teammate has it right on the base. I don't want it, though. And I think that would help people get health when they need to, but it would also take you away because you'd have to look at it and pick it up. So it's definitely a hit or miss, but I'm not sure if that would be the best change. Let me know what your opinions are down below and what your change ideas would be. Other than that, guys, that's really all I had written down here. Sorry it was such a long video. I just wanted to try to be as thorough as I could and talk about everything that I've gotten to experience so far. Let me know what you guys think down below. Are you guys enjoying the testing grounds if you get to try it? Are there any concerns you guys have coming up? Or is there anything that you particularly don't like? If I had to rate everything, I'd give everything, you know, a reasonable score. Zero's change I don't think is the change that he needed. And the droning after death, I'm not a fan of it. If they could just nerf it a little bit, to where like drones I don't know, where Maestro can open his cam, like he can move it around and spot things, but he can't, like, you know, just swing it around shooting anything. Or Echo could use his drone but not shoot the Echo thing. It's so difficult to balance, and I hate being droned out when it's a 1v1 situation, when there's just drones flying everywhere, because it overdoes your senses. There's just so much going on, and you just have to figure out what you need to do in a split second, and hopefully you hear the footsteps, because there was a couple times where there's just drones flying at me, and I got shot in the back. I had no idea that there was a guy behind me because I couldn't hear anything. The drones were just swarming me. So that's the only change I'm not liking so far. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your opinions are down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, and if you want me to test anything else in the test server, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. I haven't got to play a whole bunch on PC, but hopefully in the future I'll play a little bit more. That way I get used to the controls. Other than that, guys, I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.